So Barcelona coach has been sacked. Cleveland Indian pitchers might lose service time, and the Phoenix Suns went 8-0 and still didn't make it to the playoffs. Voldemort. But first, the NBA with new testing protocols. They're partnering with Yale. This is kind of a little interesting, at least I think, just because of sort of, I guess, ethical issues. This new saliva-based testing that Yale has been sort of developing, not actually intentionally, but basically it's about as good as the nasal swab. The nasal swab works with extracting the RNA from samples, which is a bit of a tedious and long sort of process. The saliva, basically, that sample, how they take that is they basically heat it up and add a reagent to it. And don't ask me what that specifically means, because I'm not a scientist.
I thought you were turning this into two Dr. Bros.
Yeah, no, we are not two Dr. Bros. We are two political bros.
I thought we were two sports bros. What is this channel becoming?
We're like Brady Heron, and we've got a million different channels.
Oh, Jesus.
So this is supposed to be faster and cheaper of a process than the nasal swabs, and the technology and machines used to sort of do this is going to make it so that more labs are going to be able to work on this process, which definitely means more places turning out more samples, which I guess is good. But the only thing though is it's like 90-ish% accurate, but then again, right now we're still getting false positives and whatnot, so I'm not really sure what the ethics for doing this is. The NBA and Yale both said that they're not looking to make major money on this. They're here to make it available for everybody, so I guess that's a good sign. What's your sort of take on this?
Well, first, you're never going to get a 100% test. That is a statistical impossibility that you will get. But second, kudos for partnering up and being able to push it in. It just got, as I said, it's far along. It got emergency approval for outbreaks and stuff. Wouldn't be surprised if an MLB says, "Hey, we'll use this considering we're playing whack-a-mole in the East and Central divisions with the virus." And the other big implication of this is on the college level, which obviously you saw that most college programs have canceled their sports programs for the year. And NCAA's canceled fall sports. The Big Ten has canceled. The Pac-12, the Big East, but notably the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 conference will still play in the fall, bucking everyone else. And one of the reasons they cite is that and take this as you will, whether you're for sports playing in the fall or not, but they're saying that if their athletes are together, that they will be rigorously tested and they can monitor them for the virus, as opposed to them being sent home and not keeping track of what they're doing, where they're doing it. They could get the virus. And if this test is proven, if this quick test that the NBA's helped develop in conjunction will do, maybe some of these schools might have prematurely closed if it is successful. Who knows? It's a playing part devil's advocate, because I'm of the belief that if you're not letting students back, you shouldn't let the sports students back either. But it's an interesting debate that's going around.
Yeah, I mean, Marist was a D1 school, right? Because I know Siena was. We were in that same conference.
Yeah. Aside from football, which is where yeah. What is football?
Siena didn't have football. We sucked too much. Yeah. But for us, like the student athletes were in regular classes. They did things. I mean, they traveled to things, but they weren't like these like Big Ten teams and whatnot. So I don't know how much preferential treatment some of these top athletes normally would have taking classes and whatnot. Uh,
I'll give you the answer. How much money are they making for the school every game?
uh, Way too much, and they don't get the profit off it.
Exactly, and that's what's going to drive it in the end. Call me cynical, but that's the truth.
Yeah, so they'll probably get like online classes and whatnot, because like had it been like Siena or Marist or one of those smaller D1, D2, D3 schools, they'd be in regular classes, and then you're exposing yourself to everybody else and then your team. I guess these bigger tiered schools, I guess their players could take classes and deal with it. I mean, I don't know.
I know.
But this is going to be big implications for like some of these football guys who are like, you know what, maybe I didn't have that good of a junior year that I was hoping for, and I'll stay one more year and play football. I mean, we've seen guys like Cam Newton switch schools after he graduates and do one more year and become the number one pick afterwards.
Yeah.
You don't know how this is going to work out. I mean, we've got guys in the professionals, Alex Smith, who's returning after I think like 17 surgeries on his leg after a gruesome leg injury over a year ago. And if things are getting canceled for that, because I mean, he's like up there in age, 36, 38, whatever he is. So he's not young anymore, and I don't know how much he's got left in him anyway. So this is going to be tough for someone like Alex Smith trying to make a big comeback. So this is, I'm hoping what the NBA and Yale are working on makes it faster and safer, and people are just being smarter. Unlike, some people on the Cleveland Indians.
I was going to say, speaking of endangering people, do you want to talk about what happened in Cleveland?
I'd rather not, because I feel like it should be pretty obvious at this point. Don't leave your hotel, and don't ruin your future of making millions and millions of dollars.
And most importantly, don't lie about it.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to Zach Plesac and Mike Clevenger. Which, if you haven't heard about them, you should, because both are very good pitchers in their own right. 2019 Clevenger was 13-4 with a 2.71 ERA. Zach Plesac broke out with a 3.81 ERA and 88 strikeouts in about 115 innings. So these are good quality pitchers for the Indians. Not Shane Bieber levels, but right behind them for quality stuff.
But I mean, my boy Trevor Bauer really likes Clevenger. He thinks he's like one of the best pitchers in the league.
Yeah.
And it's just that they made a really dumb decision to go out in Chicago and do their thing when basically we've had two major outbreaks with the Marlins and the Cardinals.
And a smaller one with the Reds.
Yeah, and then the Reds just had a small one there, and they just don't get it. I mean, they tested negative, but like news is broke, especially over the weekend, that like the Cleveland Indian players were not happy about this.
No, they weren't. Oliver Perez was one of several players threatening to opt out if those two immediately rejoined. And while star shortstop Francisco Lindor, what doesn't appear to have been threatening to opt out, he was very outspoken about the matter.
Yeah.
And basically, a lot of players that they don't trust those guys anymore. Which, to be fair, when you go out for however many hours in Chicago and then lie about it to the team straight up, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
There are also other aspects to think about it as well. Mike Clevenger only needs 20 days at the alternate site to push back free agency and give the Indians a precious year of control. Plesac most likely has his Super 2 eligibility status gone.
I think he needs 18 more days. So, I mean...
It it depends on how long they're down, and also I think depends on how long the Indians are at the top. For them, thankfully, since they suspended that, they've done well. Just lost two clunkers to Chicago that they would have lost anyway, even if those guys were on the mound.
Yeah.
But they can afford to put basically their number two and number three their number two and three pitchers on the on the sidelines for the moment because they are doing well. If they were the granted, if they were floundering, they probably would have done it anyway, just to make sure they had some semblance of a roster instead of mutiny. But it's fortunate for Cleveland fans who have already seen over the last 2 years a lot of that championship window seem to close.
Yeah, I mean, pitching. They say pitching
doing...
wins you a championship, but also hot hitting does as well. So they definitely had the pitching aspect. Their hitting just sort of needed to get there, especially with like guys like Lindor only hitting like 230 and Ramirez only hitting like not even 280. So
well, it's not just the Indians. This is you actually touched on a league-wide problem where I think the batting average is currently 248, 245, something like that.
Yeah, I mean Bellinger's been pretty cold. Even what's his name from Milwaukee, Yelich.
Oh, Yelich.
He was like ice cold. Sanchez, Torres were cold. They're heating back up a little bit.
Pete Alonso.
Yeah, it's just
it's
like 450-foot home run or bust, basically.
Well, it's not just that. Some people are just looking outright lost at the plate that shouldn't be lost. MLB just ran an article on some of the guys, and I just pulled that up now that should be hitting and aren't, and some go over. Rafael Devers is hitting 182 with a 30% strikeout rate. Let's see. Going through more, but Jose Altuve's hitting a $184.
Yeah.
Marcus Simeon's striking out at a 25% rate.
JD Martinez is only at 238, 2 home runs. I mean, that's...
Yeah, Chris Bryant's 182. It go down the list and you'll find there are a lot of names, and some of them are heating up. Like Nolan Arenado was only has on-base percentages slugging around 8.800, but he is starting to warm up at the plate.
You know who's not doing so well these last couple games and this upcoming week? Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and DJ LeMahieu, because they all be hurt again.
Is it 2019? Have we gone into the time warp?
My God, let's do the time warp.
Yeah, there was some good news
Copyright.
in there. Yeah, let's do the copyright strike. Good news is that Aaron Judge, this was more of a precautionary move. Mm-hmm. Judge said that he is ready, but Aaron Boone said they want him rested for the playoffs, and to be fair, there is no indication that the Yankees will be anywhere but the playoffs at the end of the year, so a healthy Judge is helpful that. The next is DJ LeMahieu. This is a similar injury that he had back when he was playing in Colorado. He's expected only, I think they said 2 to 3 weeks, so that's not the worst outcome.
Yeah, I mean, but he was hitting so well. It looked like he could have maybe gotten 400 for the year, but I guess he might not get enough plate appearances now, which kind of sucks.
Who knows what the qualifying is going to be in plate appearances this year.
All I know is as long as the Yankees win the World Series, I don't care, even if it's a shortened season. World Series is a World Series unless if someone else wins, then it doesn't count.
As long as the Astros don't win, that's what I care about. Put them in the basement for a long time. And also good news that that Aroldis Chapman for the Yankees is activated as of today, Monday, and he will be available to close out games immediately. So
the Yankees relievers have been pretty good overall. It's the starters that have been killing them. Giving up a lot of these runs. I mean, luckily they've been able to score 8-9 runs some of these games, but this is just crazy how some of these pitchers aren't even making it out of the third or fourth inning, which is going to be taxing. I mean, I guess good thing they're not the St. Louis Cardinals, who have to make up 53 games in 44 days with 11 double headers. I mean, that's just completely outrageous and crazy.
This is what happens when you make a schedule and you don't put any off days in it, because that's what happened.
Yeah. Basically a fourth of their remaining schedule is just a fourth of their days are just double headers.
Double header. Just, yeah,
Oprah's out here just giving double headers.
You got a double head. Yeah, it's a problem for doing it, and hopefully more teams don't get the virus, because imagine if we have like 4 or 5 of these teams doing.
Oof, that'd
exactly.
Just be good. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know what's also crazy? How badly the Rangers kind of flunked out of the expanded playoff, and then get the number 1 pick.
Honestly, I told my dad I was completely fine with everything that happened with the Rangers this year. They have their coach David Quinn's this is I think 2nd year with the team, and they were basically redoing the entire team. They sold off some pieces, got some new guys, signed some guys like Panarin.
Panera?
Yep, actually that's his nickname. They call him Bread Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say bread bowl somewhere in there.
Yep. Panarin definitely showed he was a star. Zibanejad, he was a big guy that they traded for a couple years back, and the fans were not happy with that originally, but I think they came to like Zibanejad now. Basically Quinn sort of, beginning of the year, Lundqvist was behind between the pipes and the net, and things were not going well. Lines weren't clicking, and then the Rangers sort of made the switch to Georgiev, and they were starting to do better. Then they made the switch to Shesterkin, and things were really starting to click. And then the coronavirus happened, and
everyone got screwed.
And then Chris Kreider got injured, and looked like all their momentum was going to go to waste, but then it got delayed even more. Kreider got healthy, Rangers got healthy, and then they forgot to show up against the Carolina Hurricanes, and they got swept 3-0, and then they got the number 1 pick in the draft, and now they get Lafreniere, some sort of French-Canadian last name guy. And he projects to be a left winger, which the Rangers sort of have under control at the moment. And he'll finish next season at 19 years old. Capo Caco is 19 at this moment, I believe, who the Rangers drafted number 2 overall in last year's draft. So definitely it looks like he's going to be ready to jump up full-time like Caco was. And I'm hoping he slots into maybe that 3rd spot and that 3rd line maybe. But the Rangers need to do a little bit more with their finding a good depth at center.
I just like how in the draft lottery that the hard luck Toronto Maple Leafs almost got the number 1 pick and then just bumped out of their own way after seeing the Legacy of Failure video that came out over the weekend. It just like that's a franchise that's been very much hard luck for the last 50 some odd years.
Yeah. What I thought was kind of funny was people were like, it was rigged, because as the guy was putting in the Rangers ball, he put it in before he was supposed to, and he had to like pull it back out. So people were like, that ball's weighted. And to my sort of excuse is, wouldn't it be better for it to be lighter then? So it goes to the top, but I guess maybe it goes to the bottom and reaches the top of the air better. I don't know.
He took it out.
Either way, Rangers have the number 1 pick. If their owner messes this up, may God help me and everybody else.
Well, speaking of owners, do you want to hear about the sweepstakes of the New York Mets?
Do we have an update for that?
Yes, I think the last time we talked about it, we were talking about how we had the J Lo A Rod bid. We had Steve Cohen coming back into the mix. We have other guys, and uh, now we have some updates on it, which is two actually. One is that the not Jeffrey Lurie. That's a different terrible owner. Fred Wilpon, the owner of the Mets, much hated by their fans, wants bids by the end of the month. So in 2 weeks' time, by the 31st, he wants all the bids in. And then this update, which is actually from today, is that there is a simmering feud. Not only is there a feud between Jeff Wilpon and Steve Cohen, who was supposed to buy the Mets at the beginning of the year and then pulled out after some renegotiations, but instead of selling to Steve Cohen, Wilpon is really getting ready to sell the team to Jennifer Lopez and Alex Rodriguez, which I can say two things. One, that gets A-Rod off Sunday Night Baseball, which I am happy for. And two, it brings the Mets fans into the biggest dilemma at all. Who do they hate more? The owner that's left them with an incomplete roster, or A-Rod, who they all hate with a burning passion? Do you take the deal with the devil in order to get a competent roster potentially?
I've told you this before. I want to see A-Rod be a major league manager for an entire year on a rebuilding team. Well, the Mets aren't fully rebuilding, as they've just sort of been in that, like, we've been rebuilding for 3 years for the last, 15 years.
It's more of we have a competent roster, but let's not add the proper pieces to get it over the hump.
And then we get to the World Series, and then we lose it, not the other team win it. I think A-Rod would do really well. He knows his game. He knows how to be dirty, sneak around, how he gets caught. So I think he's got the mindset. I think he just needs to be in that position to sort of make the proper decisions. I know he's said certain things that sort of contradict a lot of things and not makes everyone quite happy, but I think he would be competent enough as an owner. I think he'd know what he's doing. But that's just my take on it.
I think the other thing you think about it is that this also would put A-Rod and Derek Jeter back in a rivalry position that they've had since their career. And A-Rod can look over at what the Derek Jeter and the Marlins did in blowing up the roster and seeing how much bad ill will that caused, and say that's not the way we're going to do. So I don't think if J-Lo and A-Rod get the Mets that you see a fire sale akin to the Marlins. I think they're going to properly build around DeGrom, around Alonso, McNeil, and add those complementary pieces that are much needed, i.e. a bullpen. What is a bullpen, and also a couple starting pitchers, considering that every year we talk about the Mets' great starting pitching, and every year something seems to happen that causes that to go completely off the rails. This year being the virus and Tommy John surgery for Thor, but every year it's something.
And sort of not exactly quite in line, but the Phoenix Suns in the bubble, it looked like all the stars were aligning for them, much like it seems like the Mets every year. They went 8-0 in the bubble, and basically they didn't get to make the playoffs because of numbers of games played and whatnot, and they did not make it, and it kind of sucked. because it looked like they were the best team there overall, and they didn't win it mostly because Trailblazers' Damian Lillard helped lead the Blazers to a 6-2 record, averaged 37.6 points over the eight seeding games. He averaged 9.6 assists, scored 51, 61, and 42 points over Portland's final 3 games, and then helped them beat the Grizzlies in the one-off playoff game. And it's kind of sad. I mean, the Suns looked like it was like everyone's feel-good team. I mean, they didn't have a winning record at the end of the year. Only finishing 34-39, compared to the Trailblazers, who had 35 wins, 39 losses, so it's just one game back. I mean, who's to say the Suns would have ended up winning if they played one more game and gone 9-0? Who knows? Another thing to sort of touch upon was
I was gonna say before you move on that I was going to say that there's a reason that the Suns didn't get in, that they basically needed to go 8-0 to even be in the conversation.
Yeah, they needed to do that. But
not only that, but also the Grizzlies, one of the teams they were chasing, basically went 1-7 to. If I have my math right, 2-6 basically to help put them in the that conversation. Without those two things, we wouldn't even be talking about it. But kudos for the Suns for at least giving a good old college try for a team that
they tried.
But wasn't expected.
What's sad though is the Grizzlies finished 34-39. Phoenix Suns finished 34-39 as well. So I guess it was like a head-to-head sort of thing.
I think it was conference, because in their conference the Grizzlies were 20-26. The Suns were 19-27, so by one game.
Yeah, so it was kind of sad. Also sad was the San Antonio Spurs finishing 32-39, and who's to say they could have won 3 more games if they were given that to tie up the Trailblazers. They had the same amount of losses, but the Spurs end, I believe, a 22-year stretch. I think dating back to 1997.
Yeah, that is correct.
Where they made the playoffs. So they've had big guys retire. Manu got left, and then some of the other guys, Leonard decided to leave, demanding a trade. So
one of the more consistent teams in basketball now. Not.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of like what happened with the Red Wings in hockey a few years ago. I mean, they had like a 24-year streak of making the playoffs, and they're just like the worst team in the league. I think they finished last year.
Yeah.
And they didn't get the number 1 pick. The Rangers did.
Yeah. Well, it happens to every team. Every team, eventually their hot streak is going to end, no matter how much money or talent you throw at the problem.
Well, actually, speaking of that, now when you think of soccer or football, what's like a normal score you would probably see?
3-2, 4-1, something like that.
How about Lionel Messi's Barcelona losing 8-2?
Are you sure they weren't taking batting practice or something?
No. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, I guess it was like an aggregate game or something where they played the 2 legs and they lost like 4-1 both games. But no, they lost 8-2 in one 90-minute game. So their manager has been sacked, their head coach. At the end of the game, it just didn't seem like some of the players were like, we need change, and I guess it sort of hinted at the manager. So it's just that did not look good. I think this is the first year that either a team with Messi or Ronaldo haven't been in like the championship game, basically, which is crazy, because both of those guys have so much talent, and considering either their clubs were able to do that. I mean, it's not just one guy that makes the team.
Oh, so.
But it's that was quite sad that they got trounced 8-2.
Yeah.
But
I guess as we're wrapping up, we're starting to run out of time. One thing I want to kind of do, especially because we're both big baseball fans, is take a week look at the standings with right now. As you know, this year the top two teams will get in, and then the next two best records will be wild cards for that eight team playoff bracket. So right now, if the season was to end August 17th, two weeks also before the trade deadline, that'll be interesting to see.
Fast.
Yeah, what if anything happens there. In the American League East, the Yankees and Braves would get the first two slots. Central would be Minnesota and Cleveland, and then Oakland and Houston. Good job on Oakland going out to a 16-6 record.
Yeah.
And then the wild card teams would be Baltimore of all teams, and then I get either the White Sox or the Rangers. Both have a 500 record right now. The White Sox have played two more games than the Rangers. In the and also special note, the worst record in baseball currently is in the American. The worst record in the American League, is Boston at a ghastly 6-16, and have not won a single game against the New York Yankees.
And they have lost 7 in a row and a -42 run differential.
It is. They're rolling out the tanks, as they say.
Yeah.
Over in the National League, you have the Miami Marlins. They've started coming back down to earth, but they're still the top team in the National League East. The Atlanta Braves are right behind them. Then you have in the Central the Cubs, which was not going to be my pick of opening out guns blazing at the gate, but they're 13-6. The Brewers are 10-10 right behind them. Tied with the Cardinals, but the Cardinals have only played 8 games to this point, so I'll say that the Brewers get second. And then in the West, it's the Dodgers and the Rockies taking those top 2 slots. The wild card teams, I'll say the Cardinals because again they've only played 8 games with their 500, and the Arizona Diamondbacks who have righted themselves after a bad start to hit 500. And then the worst record in baseball, the other race, the 4-14 Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
It is. We saw this coming after that horrendous collapse midway through last season, but yikes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you forget that, 5-6 years back, they had the second best record in majors and had to settle for a wild card game, card game. Back
when the
Cardinals
Reds
had 100 wins.
The Reds had 99 and the Pirates had 98.
No, it wasn't the. It was the Cardinals with 100. Pirates had 98, and then Chicago had 97.
Oh, it was Chicago? I thought it was Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, because that was 2015, and then 2016 the Cubs won the World Series that following year.
Then this was a few years before it, because I know there was a wild card game between the Pirates and the Reds.
Yeah,
where
the Pirates had 3 years in a row where they kept losing in that one-off playoff game.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking for a franchise that has known nothing but futility since the early 90s.
Yep.
And once again, those futility, but
so with the standings, looks like as of right now you'd be eating your hat because the Orioles and Marlins are both in playoff position.
Well, you say that, but the Orioles used to be in that number 2 slot. They've still gone 7-3, but they also haven't faced the Yankees yet. They haven't.
Yeah.
They faced the Rays and swept them, or split. I forget what it was, but it was bizarre.
Yep.
See, but I would imagine they've not really faced much the Yankees and dreaded Oriole killer Gleyber Torres, which I imagine by the next time
he'll be out of his funk.
They come, we'll be out of it.
I will say the Yankees should definitely be running away with this division because they lost 3 out of 4 to Tampa. But those 3 losses all should have been wins. But that was really bad.
Don't forget the Rays have a roster you don't think will succeed, and somehow it works, and that's in their MO. So I expected the Rays to be there right behind the Yankees or even overtaking, depending. But right now, the other surprise, as I said, the Cubs basically did nothing this offseason, and they're 13-6. Though that's also kind of because the Brewers got off to a slow start, only 2-6 at home. The Cardinals have been held back. The Reds have been disappointing so far, to say the least.
I mean, we're only at like the quarter mark of the year, maybe a little bit more, maybe 30% mark of the year.
We're about the third.
And we've seen teams in these first 20-ish games, depending on which team you are. Like the Padres, they started out like 6-2. Now they're 11-12. They're on a 5-game losing streak, sitting in 4th place in the NL West. So the Dodgers started off good, then they had the troubling 5-6 game. Or no, actually they didn't start off well because they lost to San Francisco.
The Rockies got off to a hot start, and now they've gone back to middling.
So I'm sure we're going to see a streak of someone pull something out of their hats, and maybe the Rangers will go on 8-game win streak and get real close to the Athletics, or maybe the Astros will start to clap instead of doing trash cans, because you might be able to clap instead now.
Maybe some trends to watch. The Minnesota Twins are 4-6 in their last 10. The Rangers, as you said, 7-3. They're part of the reason also why the Rockies have fallen a bit back down. Padres 4-6. So there's no the only team that could have been in that knocked themselves out, probably the Angels, went 3-7 with a couple heartbreaking games against the Dodgers as well. But they're firmly, it's another year where Mike Trout doesn't make the playoffs.
And Ohtani doesn't really get to pitch.
Nope, and it's and for time for us to stop because we are running out of time.
All right, Voldemort, happy birthday, belated. And I guess I'll listen to you some other time.
As it starts pouring, so hopefully I don't turn my own power off again.
All right. Wash your hands.
Stay safe. Wear the mask. I'll do all the usual stuff.
Oh, and hashtag Go Red Thunder. Frazier for the win. Keep him up on the roster.
We'll see you next week.